fast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to roll-out facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation. We are focused today on a topic that is, frankly, terrifying for farm stability, but which also offers some surprisingly clear paths forward if you stop waiting for Washington.
And today we're diving deep into a feature piece that's been generating some serious buzz. This article discusses the workforce paradox, the, uncomfortable truth about the industry's dependency on workers who are excluded from legal, established agricultural programs. This one's got layers, Sarah, and some surprising facts that are going to make you rethink how you approach capital expenditures on your farm.
That's right. The stakes here are enormous. I mean, we're talking about an industry that produces a staggering 226 billion pounds of milk annually in America. And that entire foundation is resting on, shaky ground, relying on workers who face the constant risk of enforcement and deportation. Our mission today is simple. We need to provide a viable, practical business strategy that goes beyond just, hoping federal policy catches up to reality.
Exactly. Operational stability, maintaining high milk quality, and the entire rural farm economy hinge on finding a way forward here. Every producer listens to industry experts talk about solving the labor crisis with multi-million-dollar robotic barns. But the real controversy buried in the data is this. Targeted automation, something as simple and affordable as a $2,000 automatic takeoff, provides a vastly superior and faster return on investment than the expensive, full robotic systems the industry keeps hyping up. We need to unpack that financial reality and give you the data to make better investment decisions.
So we're looking at your source material, the raw numbers on labor reliance, the legal walls, the economic consequences of disruption, and finally, the actionable strategies farms are implementing right now. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the specific recent event that put this paradox into sharp focus nationwide, the Manitowec case study from September 25th. This wasn't just a local news story. It was a wake-up call for the entire dairy geography.
Yeah, that case in Manitowec County, Wisconsin, it wasn't isolated, but it certainly served as a lightning rod for the entire upper Midwest. Department of Homeland Security arrested 24 workers from a parking lot where they commonly met to carpool to various dairy farms in the area. The logistics of the enforcement action alone show the vulnerability. It wasn't an on-site raid, it was targeting the supply chain of labor itself.
And the consequence was immediate and absolutely devastating for those operations that relied on those 24 people. When you lose that many workers in one morning, you aren't just missing bodies. You are destroying years of institutional knowledge and expertise. That leads to instant disruption in milking schedules, which affects every single cow in the herd and cascades down to complex protocols like fresh cow management, specific feeding times, and successful breeding programs. It's chaos.
I think every farmer listening knows that gut-wrenching feeling. When headlights turn into your farm drive at 4 a.m., there's that split second where you wonder, are those your regular, dependable milkers, or is today the day enforcement officers show up and your entire operation grinds to a halt? This Manitowec case brought that nationwide uncertainty right to Wisconsin's doorstep. I talked to a producer near El Paso, Texas, who shared a similar but smaller experience recently. He lost 3 workers to an enforcement action, and he was clear. It took him 2 agonizing months of inconsistent schedules, mandatory overtime, and struggling to fill those highly skilled shifts just to return to normal production levels.
2 months. 2 months of chaos. And what makes this so profoundly frustrating for dairy producers is the legal barrier that created this mess in the first place. The H-2A exclusion. The H-2A temporary agricultural worker program is not small. It's growing tremendously. It jumped from about 48,000 certified positions in fiscal year 2005 to nearly 380,000 in fiscal year 2024. Fruit and vegetable farms use it extensively because their work is seasonal. But dairy, we are locked out.
We're locked out by the literal language of the rules, specifically the federal regulations found at 20 CFR 655.103, which required the work to be temporary or seasonal. And historically, that definition has always excluded the primary operations of dairy farming.
I have to challenge the logic there. I mean, how can the federal government justify calling year-round milking anything but essential non-seasonal labor? Mastitis does not follow a harvest schedule. Cows don't take the winter off. Fresh cow management, calf rearing, milk, that happens twice a day, 365 days a year, whether it's frozen February in Wisconsin, the spring thaw in New York, or the August heat in California. This isn't picking strawberries. This is animal husbandry with relentless, non-negotiable scheduling demands. It just doesn't make sense.
And what's fascinating here, and what highlights the arbitrary nature of that exclusion, is that the federal government does understand that certain range livestock operations have year-round needs. They can qualify for year-round H-2A workers under specific conditions. They acknowledge that cattle ranching deep in the remote West might need continuous workers. But large-scale confined dairy operations, which are the backbone of U.S. milk supply, are somehow deemed ineligible because of this antiquated definition of seasonal. It simply doesn't align with operational reality in the 21st century. It just doesn't.
It creates a vicious cycle, doesn't it? Because legal, year-round labor is unavailable, dairy farms are forced to rely on workers who face constant risk. Then, when enforcement happens, the specialized skills they brought, the specific knowledge of your herd, is lost, which destabilizes the operation, increasing costs and volatility. We have to acknowledge that while legislative fixes like the Farm Workforce Modernization Act have passed the House twice, showing some bipartisan understanding of the need, they keep stalling in the Senate. So waiting for Washington is clearly not a viable business strategy. Not at all.
And the situation is made exponentially worse because the dairy industry itself has transformed over the last decade into an entity utterly dependent on this labor stability. We need to look at the USDA Census of Agriculture data to see just how much things have changed over the past decade from 2012 to 2022 and understand why the surviving farms are so fragile.
The consolidation data is stark, and it's essential context for this labor crisis. Look at Wisconsin, America's dairyland. We had, 15,904 dairy farms in 2012? By 2022, that number was slashed to 6,949, more than half gone in 10 years. It's gone. California, the largest milk producer, lost 30% of its dairy farms in that same time frame. Texas, Idaho, New York, it's the same pattern everywhere. Yeah. Fewer, larger farms.
And here's the crucial point. The farms that survived didn't just get lucky. They got bigger, dramatically more efficient, and critically, they became absolutely dependent on reliable, skilled, year-round workers showing up every single morning. The capital requirements necessary to survive the last decade, building a new parlor, investing in large-scale feed storage, drove out the smaller family operations, leaving these highly leveraged industrial-scale businesses that cannot afford even a day of downtime. They're just too leveraged.
Right, and this high dependency magnifies the impact of the skill gap. When you lose an experienced milker, or especially someone managing your transition cow string, you can't just pull someone off the street and expect the same results. It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely not. Think about the complexity involved. It takes weeks, sometimes months, to properly train new milkers, especially for larger operations with complex fresh cow protocols, specific parlor technologies, and antibiotic withholding procedures. It's not simple stuff. The source material highlights this critical reality. The industry operates in a gray area where long-term employees, despite their legal uncertainty, develop deep knowledge of specific herds that becomes indispensable.
Let's delve into that deep knowledge. You mentioned a farm near Turlock, California, where the same worker has managed transition cows for 12 years.
12 years?
12 years. What exactly does 12 years of experience mean in practical terms that a manual can't replace?
Okay, it means they know the herd's individual cow movements, their historical calving difficulties, the specific signs of metabolic disease that a less experienced eye would just completely miss. They are managing the transition period, the 3 weeks before and after calving, which is the most stressful, high-risk, and high-reward phase of the cow's lactation cycle. It's critical. If a worker misses the subtle signs of hypocalcemia or ketosis in a fresh cow, that cow is likely heading for a DA, a dramatic drop in production, or, well, death. That specific knowledge is lost instantly during an enforcement action. Instantly. Farmers are left with nobody capable of reliably handling fresh cows, which, in a commercial herd, is the most vulnerable and most valuable part of the herd, period.
That deep dive into the skill gap really hammers home why this isn't just a volume problem, it's a quality and stability problem, a huge one. And this uncertainty isn't isolated to a handful of states. The Manitowec incident reflects an enforcement pattern seen across the dairy geography.
That's right. Similar scrutiny has been seen in California for decades. in the Magic Valley of Idaho, and across the panhandle of Texas. It's everywhere. These operations are all facing the same systemic threat to their foundational labor pool, and when enforcement happens, the impact reverberates beyond the farm. Local community organizations often raise concerns about families who have been part of rural life for years, kids in schools, workers contributing to the local economy. But the enforcement agencies are operating under their mandates, and the swift, devastating economic impact on the farm is secondary to those federal priorities. It's a lose-lose situation. It only magnifies the vulnerability of the surviving larger operations that simply cannot survive operational disruptions lasting 2 months. They just can't.
Okay, so this workforce instability isn't just a logistical headache. It's a profound and quantifiable economic risk. Let's really dig into that. Let's turn the soil on the economic impact and detail the immediate consequences of losing experienced personnel.
Well, when experienced workers vanish, operational consistency, the bedrock of quality milk production, breaks down almost immediately. It has to. Quality milk requires rigid adherence to the same milking times, the same prep procedures, the same handling of the equipment, and strict adherence to mastitis protocols. Any break in that routine stresses the cows, period.
And we've seen specific, painful data points on this. Operations have reported somatic cell counts, or SCC, jumping 50,000 just from switching milking crews. Let's translate that. 50,000 is not a small jump. If you're normally running 150,000 and you jump to 200,000, you are instantly losing the opportunity for quality premiums and potentially facing deductions or penalties depending on your contract. That is an immediate loss in profitability that hits the next milk check right away.
And the chaos doesn't stop there. Production drops follow because of stress, inconsistent handling, and incomplete milk out. It's inevitable. But here's the deferred disaster. Reproduction programs suffer when heat detection is missed. Heat detection is often a key responsibility of experienced milkers who know the subtle signs of estrus. They see things others don't. Missing one heat cycle today means you miss the opportunity for a pregnancy. That means lower production, a longer calving interval, and ultimately less milk and higher cull rates months from now. For a cow valued at, say, 80 pounds of milk a day, missing a sheet cycle might cost you anywhere from $300 to $500 in lost revenue and extended days open. Easily. Scale that across a herd of 1,000 cows over a year, and the financial impact of labor instability is staggering. Just staggering.
And if we broaden the view, the economic strain becomes macro, affecting states and the national economy. The Wisconsin dairy industry generates a massive $45.6 billion in total economic activity. California's sector contributes $21 billion. This isn't just a few farms struggling. This is a massive foundational industry supporting thousands of rural jobs, and it's all built on this incredibly unstable labor foundation.
Absolutely. The ripple effects across the supply chain are palpable. When farms face scrambling operations, processing plants face variable, inconsistent milk supplies, haulers have route disruptions and delays. Feed suppliers see volatility in demand as herd health metrics fluctuate. When the engine of the farm starts sputtering due to labor uncertainty, the entire supply chain feels the tremor, leading to inefficiencies and increased cost across the board.
And let's not forget the long-term economic risk that filters down to the consumer. Basic economics dictates. If we see a major sustained disruption that reduces the U.S. milk supply while demand remains steady, or if labor costs spike dramatically due to scarcity, prices will increase. Some analysts worry that major sustained disruptions could push prices up significantly, which fundamentally erodes dairy's competitive position against plant-based alternatives. If we price ourselves out of the everyday shopping basket, we risk losing market share we may never regain, permanently weakening the industry's profitability. The stability of the workforce is directly tied to the price stability of the finished product. It's that simple. Now let's pivot to the solution everyone talks about: technology. Every industry conference features shiny new robotics, presented as the silver bullet for the labor crisis. But the bovine is here to challenge that robotics hype with hard numbers and real-world farm economics.
Yeah, I have to say the hype cycle around full automation is relentless. It sounds great on paper. Remove the variable human element and install machines, but the reality is far more nuanced. Current adoption rates show robotic milking systems are used on only approximately 3% of U.S. dairy operations. Yes, that number is growing, but it's still highly centralized among specific operation sizes. It's not widespread.
And let's address the biggest hurdle for 97% of farms: the high capital cost and the, excruciatingly long payback period. Wisconsin Extension estimates installation costs at $150,000 to $200,000 per robot. If you have a decent-sized herd, you are committing to millions of dollars in capital expenditure, plus specialized maintenance contracts and increased utility costs. It's huge money.
Precisely. You were looking at a best-case scenario of 5-7-year payback period on a massive capital investment. And that projection assumes perfect operation, minimal component failure, and, a guaranteed milk price, which we know isn't guaranteed.
But wait a minute, Jake. Doesn't saying forget the full robot barn ignore the long-term demographic trend? Aren't we just delaying the inevitable need for full automation if labor uncertainty is only going to worsen?
I see your point, Sarah, and that's the industry line. Automation is inevitable, but we have to look at what solves the immediate operational crisis and generates cash flow now. Crucially, robots do not eliminate the need for skilled labor. University of Minnesota Extension research shows they might reduce milking labor by 20-30%. Okay, but you still require skilled personnel. You can't automate transition cow management, health monitoring, or complex breeding programs. Not really. The skill gap remains. It just shifts from parlor management to technology management. You need tech-savvy people.
So if the million-dollar robot system reduces the volume of required labor but doesn't solve the skill and consistency problem fast enough, where should the farmer who needs stability and ROI be focusing their capital? What's the smart money move?
This is where the contrarian take comes in. And this is the insight we want the farmer driving to the feed store to grasp today. Targeted automation provides much better, faster ROI. Why? Because it maximizes the efficiency and longevity of the skilled workers you do retain. Why commit to a $1 million system with a 7-year depreciation schedule when incremental strategic investments deliver immediate, measurable efficiency gains?
Okay, let's talk brass tacks. What are these targeted investments? Give us specifics.
All right, here's the data point that should change your investment strategy. Automatic takeoffs. Simple attachments that automatically detach the milking cluster when milk flow drops. They cost only $2,000 to $3,000 per stall. That's achievable, right?
Yeah.
It's an immediate efficiency gain that reduces overmilking, reduces the risk of mastitis, and allows one milker to manage more stalls effectively. Compare that capital cost and maintenance burden to the full robot cost. It's night and day.
Another major win, which addresses the reproduction impact we discussed, is activity monitors. Huge potential there.
Absolutely. At $100 to $150 per cow, Penn State Extension data shows these monitors can increase heat detection rates by a whopping 20 to 25%. That instantly improves your breeding success and reproduction program, which pays back in months, not years, through lower open rates and tighter calving intervals. You're replacing the need for an experienced milker to visually monitor cows for hours, which is a massive labor saver in terms of time and accuracy. It's a game changer for repro.
And simple things like automated feed pushers, which run about $25,000 to $35,000 for a robotic unit. Seems like a no-brainer. They reduce labor while ensuring the feed remains fresh and available to the cow 24/7, increasing feed intake and overall production consistency.
So when you look at the ROI, comparison targeted automation often shows payback within 18 months, vastly superior to the 5 to 7 year cycle for full robotics. The choice for operational stability and profitability is clear. The focus must be on maximizing the efficiency of the skilled labor you do retain, rather than attempting a massive, risky capital overhaul that often fails to solve the deep skill deficit anyway.
Okay, since we've established that relying on federal reform for the H-2A program anytime soon is, well, a fantasy, let's be honest. We need to examine the pragmatic solutions states have implemented that provide daily stability to the workforce, even if they don't solve the workers' ultimate federal legal status.
Yeah, the prime example is driver's license programs for all residents, regardless of immigration status. California implemented AB 60 way back in 2015. New York passed the green light law in 2019. Now, 15 states have similar programs allowing undocumented immigrants to obtain driver's licenses upon passing the requisite tests.
And the reasoning here is highly practical, not political. Dairy operations are rural. Workers need to drive to the farm, often at 4 a.m., and they need to run errands for their families, like everyone else. Having them drive legally, safely, with proper insurance, and without fear of a minor traffic violation escalating into an immigration issue is better for everyone, the workers, the farms, and the general public. It just makes sense.
The data back this up, too. A UC Davis study confirmed this practicality. California's program reduced uninsured drivers by 15% and saw a 7-10% reduction in hit-and-run accidents. This isn't just about labor supply, it's about road safety and minimizing the risk of a simple traffic stop escalating into an incident that shuts down a dairy, like the one we saw in Manitowec. It creates an operational buffer zone. That's key.
Now, while some key dairy states like Wisconsin and Idaho have faced political hurdles in passing similar license programs, other local adaptations are emerging to create stability.
Right. Idaho, for example, has seen counties working directly with dairies on innovative housing and transportation solutions. The goal is to reduce the workers' need to drive on public roads altogether, often facilitating private transportation or building subsidized, high-quality housing directly adjacent to the farm. This investment in housing, like the producer near Twin Falls we mentioned, is viewed as a retention and stability tool. It reduces dependence on public infrastructure and mitigates risk. Smart move.
So if that's the state landscape, a patchwork of stability solutions, what are the smart operational strategies progressive farms are implementing right now to manage this uncertainty and ensure they survive the next enforcement wave?
They are focused on 3 core immediate areas that involve both legal action and personnel investment. 3 key things.
First, strengthening compliance. This means ensuring I-9 documentation is absolutely bulletproof, no question.
And that means collaborating proactively with specialized agricultural attorneys to understand your legal obligations and risks in case of an audit or enforcement action. You need to know where you stand. You need internal protocols that are robust and defensible. Groups like the Wisconsin Dairy Alliance and Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative offer training and resources specifically on compliance. This is about managing the risk you can control.
Second, political engagement. Hope is not a strategy. Waiting for policy to fix itself is a guaranteed way to lose your labor pool. You have to get involved.
Coordinated action through organizations is essential. This means the National Milk Producers Federation, NMPF, Immigration Task Force, the Wisconsin Dairy Alliance, and the Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative are all crucial allies. Use them. But it's even more important that individual producers step up and testify about their operational reality. Tell your story. We heard the story of the farmer from Manitowec County who recently testified about losing 2 workers and nearly missing a milk pickup because of it. That real-world, localized testimony is what moves state legislators faster than any paid lobbyist. It really does.
I agree. That farm-to-legislator connection is powerful. Finally, the third strategy is investing heavily in personnel and retention. This isn't just about wages. It's about creating long-term viability for your key people.
Exactly. This means creating clear advancement opportunities, providing high-quality training in things like fresh cow management and equipment maintenance, and crucially, improving housing. The producer near Twin Falls nailed this when he said his best investment wasn't the new parlor. It was the apartments he built for his long-term employees. That says it all. Keeping experienced workers, regardless of their status, by making them feel valued and secure is always more cost-effective than dealing with constant destabilizing turnover and the resulting drop in milk quality. Always.
All right, Jake, let's translate this extensive deep dive into 3 critical, actionable steps for the farmer listening right now, perhaps driving the tractor or heading to the feed store.
Yeah.
We need clarity and prioritization. What do they do?
Okay, we've got to prioritize immediate compliance action, strategic financial investment, and relentless policy positioning. It's a 3-legged stool.
Immediate action this week. Strengthening the core. What's the single most vital, risk-reducing thing they should do right now, today?
Review and strengthen your I-9 documentation compliance immediately. This is not optional risk management. It's essential. Engage with an agricultural attorney or utilize compliance resources offered by trusted groups like the National Milk Producers Federation or the Wisconsin Dairy Alliance. Now, you need to understand your regulatory obligations and associated risks perfectly. Don't wait for an audit to find out your paperwork is shaky, because that's the first line of defense. Get it right.
That's job 1, protecting the current operation. Medium-term strategy, next 3-6 months. Strategic tech investment. How should they adjust their capital spending plan away from the industry hype?
Okay, evaluate targeted automation for immediate labor efficiency gains and improved herd management. Focus on the quick wins. Prioritize those low-capital projects with a fast, proven payback. We're talking about automatic takeoffs, remember, $2,000 to $3,000 both stall, immediate efficiency and activity monitors at $150 per cow to tighten up reproduction rates by 20% or more. Focus strictly on projects with sub-18-month payback periods, maximizing your existing skilled labor pool. Forget the pressure to build the full robot barn for now, and focus on the ROI of retention and efficiency. Smart money.
And finally, long-term positioning, next 1 to 2 years. Community and policy engagement. This requires time and political bandwidth, but it's crucial.
You need to be proactive, not reactive. Engage with your state legislators and key dairy organizations, the NMPF, American Dairy Coalition, EDGE. Make your voice heard. Advocate strongly for state-level stability solutions, particularly driver's license programs, and push for sustained federal reform that recognizes year-round labor needs. Keep pushing. Understand that engagement drives change faster than hoping, and actively building community relationships, like investing in high-quality worker housing, can create those necessary operational buffer zones that protect your investment and ensure your milk check remains consistent. Build those bridges. This has been another essential deep dive from the Bullvine podcast. We tackled the paradox that supports 226 billion pounds of milk production survival without legal labor, and hopefully provided a clear financial path forward through targeted investment. If this kind of practical, no BS analysis helps your operation, head to www.thebullvine.com for the full feature article and more resources that tell you what's really happening in dairy.
And seriously, subscribe wherever you get your listening material. We're releasing deep dives twice weekly now, and trust me, you don't want to miss what we've got coming next week.
Yeah.
We're looking at the true margin impact of high-protein contracts and how the current supply chain might be manipulating the metrics that determine your price. You need to hear this.
But before we sign off, here's one final provocative thought for you to chew on this week. The vulnerability of your workforce is the single biggest unmanaged risk on your balance sheet today. Think about that. The challenge is clear. Will you contact your state dairy organization this week, sharing your operational reality and pushing for stability solutions? Or will you wait for the next enforcement action to hit your county and just hope your operation survives the disruption?
The choice, as always, is yours.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next time.